have my bike back. Oh my God! Alright, back in my helmet, or my cockpit, or whatever you guys want to call it. Back in my helmet, what do you guys think of this view? See where that truck with the boats are coming out? That's where we're heading. We're heading over there somewhere. But yeah, this is a fantastic view. I love this view. I never really got the chance to bring the Harley up here and take some of these photos in front of this view, which is kind of a shame. But I got a lot of pictures with that bike. I took a lot of pictures of that bike and a lot of videos of that bike. So anyway, let's get back on this bike and... Alright. So the first thing I want you to notice, let's talk about it being so tall. Okay? So first and foremost, I'm going to show you the right side of this bike. You see my foot is hanging? And this is my left foot. The balls of my feet are down on this side, alright? So now, in order for me to put the kickstand up, I gotta have some air time to put this other foot down, and now my right foot is hanging, right? And my left foot is now hanging. So, putting the kickstand up is always a chore on a tall bike. And that's what I noticed. So, and it doesn't help if you're on a slant. So the bike is really leaning towards this side. So what I have to do is get off the bike. It's in neutral right now. And this could be embarrassing for some people, but I don't really care. And lift the bike up a little bit and move the kickstand up. And then now, mount the bike. So that's the first order of business, and I really wanted to show you guys that, because if this is not your lifestyle, this is not how you want to live, then do not get a tall bike, because it is a lot of work, and I'm sweating my buns off right now, just doing that. So now you can see my right foot, balls down, my left foot on the peg, but it is completely hanging, which this is not comfortable for a lot of people, as you know. Alright, what's it like to own a sport bike compared to a cruiser? Well, the first thing you notice is how tall it is. And this is going to sound cheesy, but learning how to ride on a tall bike is a tall order. I'm serious. Alright, sorry, that's the only pun for the day, I promise. So, at stoplights, this is how it's going to look. One foot down, the other foot on the peg. The second thing I was talking about is going from a cruiser to this. I will tell you, this tall lifestyle is very difficult at first, but I'm still getting used to it. I've put about 500 miles on this bike already, and it still takes some getting used to. The cruiser style, definitely, on the cruiser bikes, it's definitely more comfortable at stoplights. So, first off, the sitting position on this bike is, compared to a cruiser, is like really sport oriented, right? I mean, I'm leaning forward more than a cruiser, than if I were on a cruiser. Which, that might not be for some people, but I honestly at first hated it. I was like, this is so uncomfortable. Not a fan of it. But then after a while, because I'm always afraid, I've heard people say, when you're on a sport bike, your back starts hurting, your wrist starts hurting, and all that good stuff, right? And I'm like, oh God, that sounds awful. Why would you want to ride a motorcycle that does all those things for you? But then I realized the proper riding technique actually alleviates all of that, and that's what this basically is proper riding technique. So that's the first thing I noticed, is it's actually, after I got used to riding it and know where to put my pressure points, my back doesn't hurt, my wrist doesn't hurt. And then again, this is not a super sport, right? It's still a sport bike, but not a super sport. So that's one thing. Alright, the next thing is that this might be hard to compare, because the cruiser I had was a Harley, which doesn't have that much power or torque. I mean, it had a lot of low-end torque, but this bike has torque everywhere, It has torque low end all the way up to high end, okay? They're just torque for days. And then when I'm on the highway, that torque is so handy when I'm trying to pass people to get to the next lane. Not because I'm trying to speed or anything, it's just because I want to get away from a big truck or a semi. Oh, this feels so nice right now. Oh my goodness. So this bike definitely is a lot different, and yeah, you're probably saying you can't compare the Cruiser to this and blah blah, but I recently test rode a Scout, and in the Cruiser world it's kind of the same thing. In the Cruiser world it's got torque for days, it just keeps accelerating. So I'm like, why can't the Harley do that? Why couldn't the Harley do that? This thing, it revs so high. It loves to rev so high. I'm still in that $500. I'm still in the 500-mile braking period right now, so I can't rev it too high. Next thing is that engine braking and rev matching. I had never done that on my Harley. I probably should have, but I did not do that on the Harley. At least I wasn't good at it. It's really busy in here. But on this bike, I am rev matching and I am engine braking like crazy. So some key differences take away from this is that a sport bike is geared much differently. The fuel delivery is different. The air intake is different. It sounds completely different. If that makes any sense at all. Okay, let's go on to the third point about owning this bike. Third thing, and last thing for this video, really. Refinement. I thought the Harley was refined. Holy shit, was I wrong. This bike is refined. Oh my god, is this bike refined. How do I put this? Okay. The best way I can describe this is my brother used to own a Corvette a long time ago. And I own a Hummer, and I still do. And he had asked me how I felt about this bike so far, and the first thing that came to my head was this. I told him that this bike is like the Corvette, and the Harley is like the Hummer. Oh, and the reason why I say that is the Harley, when you open up the throttle, it takes its time to speed up. It takes its time to get up to speed, you know. This thing, it's like instant. You just touch the throttle just a little bit. Like, look at that. See? You can hurt yourself on this damn thing. That was just me just touching a little bit, and it just went. That was a terrible idea. I almost hurt myself. So I told him that. And then the braking, because it's a sport bike, and again, I'm not comparing and saying this bike is better. I'm not comparing it to try to tell you this bike is better. I'm just comparing. Uh-oh. I have a phone call. Alright, let me take this phone call and then we'll get back on our thing. The brake reservoir, I would have to say this is probably my least favorite thing about this bike stock, is the brake reservoir is made of plastic. I actually had to get this changed, and I forgot to tell you guys that. I could not stand the look of the plastic on this thing. And this is, you know, a $10,000 bike. It's almost $11,000 for taxes and title. So you would think they would put some nice anodized reservoir on here. But no. I actually had to get it aftermarket, which is not cool. Let's talk about mechanical. Let's talk about performance refinement. Oh, this thing has got plenty of refinement when it comes to performance. Hold on. So we are now 30, and that's 60. Oh, yeah, baby. So, back brakes work pretty well, but let me tell you, let me just give you an analogy here. Let me just try to tell you from my perspective. They say that braking, 30% is back brakes and 70% is front brakes. That's the general rule of thumb, right? Well, this bike, 100% is from the front brakes. 100%. I mean, this thing is just awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That's how good the front brakes are. Oh, brakes are responsive, throttle is responsive. And if you want to talk about refinement with this bike, you got to talk about the torque band, the power band. It is everywhere. It is from the first couple inches of the bike moving to 80, 90 miles an hour. It's just everywhere. It keeps pulling, and it just will not stop pulling. And it's controlled torque. It is refined torque. It's not sloppy torque. It is crazy. That's how refined this bike is. The amount of power in this bike is amazing. And what I mean by refined is that you don't feel at some point that it's clunky. Going from the Harley to this is like going from a gas motorcycle to an electric motorcycle. That's what I mean by refinement. The way this bike delivers power, the way this bike uses the fuel and air intake to deliver that type of power, everything is seamless. Everything is seamless. And because it's seamless, it feels like an electric bike. It doesn't feel like there is fuel consumption and oil being mixed together with oxygen and all that good stuff to get the bike moving. There's like no moving parts. It doesn't feel like there's moving parts in this bike. It just feels like it just does. It just moves. The bike just goes when you open the throttle. It just feels like there's an electrical current going from my right hand to some kind of mechanical thing that just says move. It just says, okay, rear wheel spin. That's what it feels like. All electrical, all battery operated, electrical current operated. It doesn't feel like there's some kind of gasoline being used or liquid being used. That's what I mean by refinement. I think my one last thing I want to tell you is this bike makes me want to be a better motorcycle rider. It makes me want to hone in my skills and work on my skills as a motorcycle rider. And that's all I have to tell you today. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize for a long video, but I wanted to tell you from a cerebral standpoint what's going on in my head. Okay. That's it, Scene with Motorcycling. I will see you guys in the next video.